Hey, today we're going to talk about the best ways to continue studying during Ramadan. So let's get stuck in. Assalamu alaikum. The question is, how do we best prepare for our studies during this month? If we wish to reap the spiritual benefits as well as gain academically from this month, we need a game plan. So listen carefully. What is Ramadan? Ramadan is a month where we fast from dawn all the way till sunset. That means we cannot eat or drink or do any illicit activities during this period. All other acts of worship are for different reasons, but fasting, as God tells us, fasting is specifically for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala only. Now, that does not mean that there are not secondary benefits from it, primarily which we learn discipline from, and secondly, we can also learn this benefit of understanding the difficulties and hardships that a poor person might go through. Now, since we can't eat during this time period, it is important that our brain is in tip-top condition for us to reap the maximum benefit from it. And for your brain to be in a tip-top condition, you need a good night's sleep. You need enough glucose in your body to fuel the rest of your day. Your brain exclusively uses glucose as fuel, not fat, not protein. With these two principles in mind, we need to keep 3 areas to maximize our opportunity in terms as a student to take the most out of Ramadan. And these 3 areas are preparation, diet, and schedule. Preparation. Many of us end up floundering through the first week or so of Ramadan.
I give up. I'll kill him!
Because we haven't prepared properly for it. We have spent a whole year gorging on junk food and takeaways and all of that kind of stuff. So we're not quite ready for this sharp change in our routine. Because now we can only eat when the sun goes down. This is a big issue for us. What I would advise is in the run-up, the few days before, see if you can start cutting down on your meals. Maybe even skip lunch or something along those lines. And that's really it for the first section, to be honest. Like preparation, get the right intention. If we have the right intention for this upcoming month, as well as physically preparing in the right manner, we are well set. Number 2, the diet. So in Ramadan, there are 2 main feasting times, Iftar and Suhoor, as we know. Now, Iftar is when the sun sets and we are going to get to eat.
Finally!
Suhoor is obviously before the first light. So the question is, what should you eat at Suhoor? What we want to eat are types of foods that will keep you satiated for the long periods of the day. Foods that take a while to break down, and please do not skip Suhoor. So the sorts of food that you should be eating are any slow releasing carbs. These are oats, porridges, and the likes. Any protein rich food, eggs or dairy, fruits and vegetables, fiber rich food such as beans, berries, oatmeal. These things will slow down your digestion. And what is it that you don't want to ingest? Caffeinated drink, because this is really just going to dehydrate you throughout the day and is also going to cause a crash, and at which point you can't really recover from having glasses of water or anything of the like. You also don't really want any fast releasing carbohydrates. So things like bread, bagels, etc. These are fast releasing carbohydrates. So look up what these are and try to avoid the fast releasing carbohydrates, because your body will break them down really quickly and you're going to feel hungry and unsatiated for the rest of the day. And of course, junk foods, please avoid those. They are tasty, but they're not really beneficial to you because they are severely lacking nutritional value. Salted food like peanuts and all of this stuff, again, they taste very nice, but really we don't want to be eating them because they're going to cause dehydration and not a great choice for the rest of the day. And what about Iftar? What should we be eating during Iftar then? The idea at Iftar is to kind of replenish the carbohydrate stores rapidly so we can re-energize and just before bedtime is over. At the same time, we don't really want to eat so little that you end up feeling hungry. I want you to eat like a normal meal, and any space left over, just fill it up with some water or biscuit or 2 even. So what do we really want to eat? We are now looking to eat fast releasing carbohydrates. And if you plan to study before you go to, say, prayers, then this is critical, that you replenish all of your important glucose stores immediately. So these include stuff like breads, baguettes, cereals, etc. And anything that's protein rich, again, we can still have this. And what we don't want to eat is the classic, the Ramadan special, to be honest. The greasy foods, the oily foods, then, because this really makes it hard for you to digest them. And nobody wants those burps, right, in Tarawih. Okay, so all of this excess energy is going to induce tiredness in you. So please avoid the greasy, oily food. Leave that for Eid. That's the day of celebration. That's when you're going to enjoy, and inshallah, if you reach there, then that's what you need to leave it for. So resist and kind of try not to have that. And of course, it goes without saying that you should break your fast with things like traditional things, which are sunnah, like the dates. Have lots of electrolytes. So probably looking at, if you want to be specific, probably around 600 ml, 500 ml is what you were looking at in terms of getting fluids on board at this point. And that's per hour. And then this typically goes with if assuming you're kind of also expended some energy, maybe doing some light form of exercise to keep you active. Of course, if you go to the gym, then obviously this kind of number adds up a bit higher. Just before you go to bed, I actually need you guys to, I don't really need you guys, but you guys should eat some fats, some dairy products. So like you could eat some Greek yogurt or something along those lines. That's really, really going to help, because what's going to happen throughout Ramadan is obviously your muscles are not necessarily going to be getting the usual nutrients. So this is just to kind of try to maintain those muscles. And not only that, this will also help with bone repair, and in terms of any adaptation that your body needs overnight, this will really, really help. As part of the diet, we also want to monitor a few things. So this is kind of like a bonus section. And the things that we want to monitor are your weight, your hydration quality, and your mood. So your weight, you can simply measure by getting on a weighing scale and just kind of keep an eye on your level of kind of weight. If you notice a large decrease or a large increase, then, you know, just try to keep that. Don't try to do those things again. Try to keep the changes minimal. I would say like 2 to 3% should be maximum. Just like when you're studying, what you can track, you can improve. So if we can track our weight and we can keep it below like the 2 to 3% change level in terms of weight, then we're doing okay. The other thing is to check out your pee.
What did you say, punk?
Yeah, that's right, your urine. Check out the color of your urine and see, is it, you know, dark yellow? Is it kind of light yellow? What kind of color is it? It'll give you a good indication of what urine kind of colors are like and how much means that you are being dehydrated. So it's a good idea to keep an eye on this, and therefore you can adjust your level of hydration accordingly. And of course, if your color is really dark, like try having drinks that have electrolytes in them. And one we can easily overlook is your mood. Mood is something that's super, super important that you monitor. Like, how are you feeling on a daily basis after certain types of activities or certain types of revision that you're doing? So keep an eye on that, and that can also help you kind of limit or increase depending on what your goals are for your study. So keep an eye on your mood as your third part of your monitoring. And then we come to the final part, the schedule. So this one is, I'll be honest, this one's the one that I struggle with the most as well. And it's something that's quite hard because each year Ramadan timings do change slightly, and you always have to adjust and try to work out what the optimal pattern is. This year Ramadan is going to be during the Easter holidays as well. So that typically means 2 weeks off from your school or college or university. So it's something to kind of keep in mind, that how are you going to adjust your pattern because you're not studying at an institution. So the common questions are, should you burn the midnight oil? I would say this is probably not a good idea because your exams are going to start in a few weeks time after Easter, and there's probably not enough time for you to change this schedule from waking up late in the night, staying awake in the night, or anything along those lines. That's going to be detrimental to your preparation. So I would say, even though you could burn the midnight oil during your holidays, don't do it. Another trap that I see a lot of students fall into is to only revise during their fed state. That's after Iftar and before Suhoor. This is not a good idea, mainly because your exams are not in the night. Your exams are in the morning, 9 o'clock maybe, and 1 o'clock. So those are the times that you really want to revise. You want to replicate your exam scenario as much as possible. What I recommend is that you wake up, once you've had your suhoor and you've prayed your Fajr prayer, you go back to sleep if there is time, depending on which part of the kind of the world or the country you're in. Try to wake up at your normal scheduled time. So maybe say 7 o'clock is when you wake up. Maybe say 8 o'clock is when you wake up for your typical day, you know, if there was no suhoor. Now, wake up at that time and get some work done. All right, get these hours of work in. Then the earlier you start, the better it is, because what you want to do, as I said earlier, is replicate your exam timetable. Of course, I don't want you to study non-stop. So I think the total amount of time should be about 8 hours is what you should be doing during a holiday period. Now, that may decrease by say a half an hour or something because it's Ramadan, but that's fine. That's not the end of the world. What we don't want to do is study those 8 hours in a block, right? We want to break that up by maybe every couple of hours. You take a break. Maybe you even get a nap in. I take one nap typically during Ramadan just to kind of get my energy levels back up. So the pattern that I would go for is 8-8-8. So 8 hours of work, 8 hours of play, and 8 hours of sleep. And that's the pattern that you should take during your holiday period. Whilst you're fasting, here's some top tips in your schedule that you want to keep doing. So you want to be in a climate controlled room. You don't want to be too hot and you don't really want to be too cold because, again, hydration issues.
I need it!
And one of the ways, if it's getting really hot where you're at during Ramadan, put some cold water over your skin. So this could be whilst you're doing wudu, or just even separately. So just to kind of ensure that you aren't kind of losing or you're limiting fluids through sweat. Yeah, because why do we sweat? We sweat because our body is trying to cool itself down. So if you're getting too hot, just use some mechanisms like putting water on your skin. And don't worry, you're absolutely allowed to do that. And the third point here is you want to try to maintain a sedentary lifestyle. I would try to fit in the last 1 to 2 hours after Iftar So I probably do like say 5 to 6 hours before iftar, and the kind of 1 to 2 hours ideally after iftar. Now I know you have your Isha and Tarawih prayers afterwards, so you've got to kind of try to manage it maybe before and maybe a tiny bit after. I don't know, like it's something that you guys will be able to decide for yourself, but you've got to try to aim for that 8 hour, because that 1 or 2 hours after iftar, whether that's after Isha, whether that's a tiny bit before, is obviously optimal in the sense that you are in a fed state and you can kind of replenish and you can hydrate. If you do need to exert yourself in any physical activities, make sure you keep yourself to like maximum 60 to 70%, not only for your studies but also to prevent injuries. Yeah, I've had that, so I definitely do not recommend that, but that's a story for another day. Remember, your brain runs exclusively on glucose. So other organs can use fats and other kind of types of food items, but your brain cannot. So if you start exercising crazily, you're really depleting that brain energy store, and you're really going to kind of suffer for it. All that remains to be said is that Ramadan Mubarak, and may it be a blessed Ramadan for all of us, and may Allah bring us closer to His deen and give us better grades, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.